top-tier programs in USC, Utah, and Texas A&M. He's just 17 years old, making him one of the youngest players in the class of 2025. The Corner Canyon standout is the highest-rated wide receiver nationally from the state of Utah since Puka Nacua. Hey, we know that name. Certainly good company to be in. Getting a look at the prospect profile, again, 5 stars nationally, ranking 30th at the position. He is the 5th best wideout according to 24/7 Sports. Only 17 years old, and again, about to make his commitment between Texas A&M, USC, and Utah. Let's welcome in Blair and Guello as that 5-star wideout, about to make that commitment in Jerome Myles, Blair. And I was, looking at some notes on this guy. Broke a 43-year-old record in Utah when it came to the 100 meters. That alone is wild, just seeing that. But what makes him so special? Talk to us about the intangibles and then also his athletic ability that gets him that 5-star rating.
Jerome Myles has a rare combination of size and speed. You mentioned it, 10.36 in the 100 meters this past spring. He's about 6'2", 215 pounds, really big, really explosive, a nightmare and a headache for defensive coordinators to deal with at the high school level. I think at the next level, our 24/7 Sports scouting team just loves the upside. He oozes potential. He's got really good length. He's got the straight line speed to beat defenses over the top, but also the technical ability, the pass catching ability to be a weapon underneath. One of these schools is going to be very lucky to have Jerome Myles in their offense.
Let's talk about some of those schools that are front runners, because the 24/7 Sports crystal ball prediction, they have USC as the favorite, but Utah still holds some sway heading into the commitment. So Blair, tell us about that dynamic and those 2 front runners for the programs there as they're going after Myles.
This has been an ongoing battle for a couple years now, and what's interesting about this is that Jerome Myles was previously committed to Ole Miss. He came off the board initially back in April when he took an official visit to Oxford. He backs off that pledge a couple months later, takes official visits to A&M and Utah. It looked like the Utes had gotten a lot of the momentum after those summer official visits. USC comes into the picture late. They offer in the month of July. He takes an official visit to USC 10 days ago, and the Trojans have all the buzz now, considering everything that they are able to offer to a 5-star receiver. So this is one of those interesting battles with 3 months to go until the early signing period. Right now at the finish line, it does sound like USC is in a really good spot.
All right, we just saw the national rank there for USC. If Jerome Myles does go there, talk to us about big picture, what this does for their whole recruiting class for 2025.
Well, this would push them ever so closer to the top 10, which is a huge deal for USC, considering that this is their first season in the Big Ten. They've got that big matchup against Michigan in the Big House this coming weekend. And if they're able to continue to muster momentum on the field, I could see USC making one of those patented Trojans pushes towards the early signing period, a program that maybe hasn't recruited to the level that I think a lot of the people expected them to under Lincoln Riley. Jerome Myles would boost those efforts. It would move the Trojans up a couple spots closer to the top 10 in the national rankings, and would be, I think, a tremendous boost with a lot of other prospects still in play.
So Blair, of course, we've talked about his athletic ability, being one of the top receivers in the country. He's got a ton of upside. We always love a good comp, right? So if you can think of one, give us a comp for this guy.
I think he's a player that kind of reminds me of Juju Smith-Schuster from a few years ago, but with his physicality, with his ability to beat defenses deep, but also his toughness. He actually suffered an ankle injury as a junior early in the season. I think it was week 2 last year. Fights all the way back to make it to the state championship playoffs, and then helps lead Corner Canyon to a state title there as a junior. So I think he's physical. He's tough, and he's really competitive. I can't really remember another receiver, especially out west, that maybe stacks up to what Jerome Myles can do from a speed standpoint, from a physicality standpoint, and then obviously his toughness as well.
Yeah, when we're talking about those top receivers, it feels like we're always talking about Ohio State commitments, but interesting to hear about him out west with USC potentially as well. Blair, we certainly appreciate it as we are awaiting 5-star wideout Jerome Myles to make his commitment. Right now, you're getting a live look at Corner Canyon High School, where there's certainly a crowd there because Jerome Myles, he's going to be choosing between A&M, USC, and Utah. That commitment coming up live right here on the other side. HQ, and we are bringing you live coverage of Jerome Myles' commitment. The five-star wide receiver set to decide between Texas A&M, USC, and Utah, with USC being the front-runner per our 24/7 Sports crew. National recruiting editor for 24/7 Sports, Brandon Huffman, is there in Utah. Let's send it out to him live. Hey, Brandon.
All right, thanks, Jacqueline. Well, we're here at Corner Canyon High School in Draper, Utah, where we're set to be joined by Jerome Myles' announcement here in the next few minutes. The #1 player in the state of Utah, a 5-star receiver, a top 30 player nationally, and a selection to both the All-American Bowl in San Antonio and the Polynesian Bowl in Hawaii. Jerome, thanks for having us out here today. Look at this crowd, tons of friends, family members, teammates here. You got your brother, you got another brother here. What is this moment like for you?
It's a very special moment. I'm glad that I'm able to share it with them and everybody else.
About 18 months ago, you had no offers. You got your first offer, and since then, you have blown up as a recruit. What has the process been like, going from that first offer almost 2 years ago to now, where you have these 3 schools that you're going to be choosing your commitment from?
It's been a long journey. I started out at West Jordan, got my first offer after my sophomore year, and I decided to transfer, and that was probably the best thing for me. Wrote in about 30 offers.
So earlier this spring, you had announced your commitment to the University of Mississippi, and another former Corner Canyon great, Jackson Dart, currently leading Ole Miss, a Heisman Trophy candidate himself. Then you ran a 10.3 200 meter, the fastest time in the state of Utah in, almost 40 years, and your recruitment exploded. You opened up your recruitment. Offers came from coast to coast. A couple weeks ago, you narrowed it down to 5, but now you're down to these 3. When your recruitment really exploded this spring, was that anything that you had even prepared for?
No, I was not ready for it. As soon as I decommitted, about 13 colleges hit me up, and it was crazy, really crazy.
So you narrowed it down to 5, and now these 3. USC, Utah, Texas A&M. Break down those 3 schools and why they made it here to the hat ceremony.
All 3 of them have the same thing in common. They all have very good coaching staffs, and they all develop some of the best NFL talent, and that's really what it was. That's really it.
All right, well, this is the moment that all your friends and family members and teammates have all gathered to see. It's why everybody's tuned in on CBS Sports HQ. Jerome, where are you going to be playing your college football?
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be committing to the University of USC.
There it is, the University of Southern California Trojans. Lincoln Riley comes into the state of Utah and lands the 5-star receiver, the #1 player in the state of Utah. He's going to be headed to play for the Trojans at USC. So, Jerome, you've gone from very excited crowd here. You went from the 30-plus offers down to these 3. Ultimately picked USC. What was it about the Trojans that made them the pick for you?
They have, first, the most NFL picks ever other than Notre Dame, and I really like that their life outside of football is phenomenal. Like, you can make it really in any aspect. Academics, they're great. They're not just all about football. They like to get you know as just a person, and I really value that.
Coach Riley's got a great reputation for elite quarterback development, #1 picks, multiple #1 picks, but kind of underscoring that is how many receivers that he's had that he's developed at Oklahoma and now at USC that are in the NFL. How much was that a factor, too, knowing his history with receivers?
It was a very big factor. I knew I was going to be able to go there, come in early, and be developed by one of the best receiver coaches in the nation.
You went from this process thinking that it was done a few months ago, opening it back up. You went through early part of the season where you guys had that tremendous win over IMG. You suffered an injury shortly after. It's been a roller coaster couple of weeks for you. But how much relief do you have right now knowing once and for all, where you're going to be playing your college ball?
So much relief. All the stress is finally off my shoulders, and I'm just ready for the next steps in recovery.
This Saturday on CBS National Fee, the University of Michigan, the defending national champs who also recruited you, will host USC in USC's first ever Big Ten matchup. 3:30 Eastern Time, 1:30 Mountain Time, 12:30 Pacific Time. I know you're going to be tuning in. What's your expectations for the Trojans as they move forward in the Big Ten in these next few years?
I expect them to roll through the Big Ten. They are really, really good this year. I like what they're doing so far.
Well, there you have it. Jerome Myles, the #1 player in the state of Utah, headed to play at USC. Jerome, flash that fight on for Coach Riley and everybody watching back at home. Tune in to watch the Trojans this Saturday on CBS, 3:30 Eastern Time. We send it back to Jacqueline at CBS Sports HQ.
All right, thank you so much, Brandon. And you heard it there, that breaking news, 5-star wide receiver Jerome Myles committing to USC. Brandon and the whole crew over at 24/7 Sports, they do an absolutely fantastic job with team coverage, recruiting rankings, transfer portal updates. They have got you covered in season, off season, whenever you need it. Head to 247sports.com.